Hello, my friends, and welcome to my story. My name is Ariel. I am 23 years old. I come from a small town. I now live in London. I want to tell you how I started learning English. This story is about my English journey in London. I did not come to London for fun. I did not come to see Big Ben or the London Eye. I came here for one reason. I wanted to learn English. I wanted to speak it well. I wanted to feel free. Back home, I was always scared to speak English. I was shy. I made many mistakes. People laughed. I felt small. I stayed quiet. But deep inside, I had a dream. I wanted to talk with people from all over the world. I wanted to learn new things. I wanted to read books, listen to music, and understand movies in English. I wanted to work one day in a big company where English is important. So I made a big decision. I packed my bags and came to London. The first day was hard. I was alone. I did not know anyone. The streets were big, the shops were fast, people talked quickly. I could not understand much. I went to a small English school. The teacher smiled and said, "Welcome, Ariel." I smiled back, but my heart was beating fast. I sat in a room with 10 other students. They came from different countries. One was from Italy, one was from Brazil, one was from Japan. We all wanted the same thing. We wanted to speak English. The teacher started talking. She spoke slowly. She used easy words. I listened. I tried to understand. I wrote new words in my notebook. The teacher said, "Speak without fear. Don't worry about mistakes." I liked that. It made me feel safe. At the end of the class, she gave us homework. She said, "Try the shadowing technique." I asked, "What is shadowing?" She said, "It means you listen to someone speak in English, and you repeat it right after them. You copy the voice, the sound, the feeling. You become their shadow." I went home and searched for English videos. I found one with a man saying simple sentences. I listened. Then I spoke. I copied his words. I copied his voice. I spoke with him, like a shadow. At first, it felt strange, but I kept doing it. I did it for 5 minutes, then 10, then 15. My tongue felt tired, but my heart felt proud. I said to myself, "This is working. I can do it." Every day, I woke up, made tea, and did my shadowing practice. I repeated sentences like, "How are you today?" and "I would like a cup of coffee." I listened, then spoke. Slowly, my mouth felt more free. My voice felt more strong. I could say more things. I went to the bakery near my house. I said, "Hello, can I have one bread, please?" The lady smiled and said, "Of course." I felt happy. I used English in real life. That day, I learned something important. Small steps matter. Small steps grow into big steps. One day, in class, the teacher said, "Today, we will practice speaking with a partner." I was nervous. What if I made a mistake? What if my partner laughed? But I remembered the teacher's words. Speak without fear. So I said, "Okay, I'll try." I sat with a boy named Leo. He was from Spain. He smiled and said, "Let's talk about hobbies." I said, I like reading. He said, me too. We talked for 5 minutes. Then 10. I made mistakes. He made mistakes. But we understood each other, and that was the best part. It was not perfect, but it was real. After class, I did more shadowing. I watched English stories. I copied the speakers. I repeated words again and again. I watched myself in the mirror. I tried to move my mouth like the speakers. I smiled. I was learning. Some days were hard. I felt tired. I wanted to stop, but I told myself, keep going. You are getting better. One evening, I called my mom. She said, Ariel, you sound different. Your English is better. I felt tears in my eyes. I said, thank you, Mom. I'm working hard. She said, I'm proud of you. That gave me power. I started a small notebook. I called it My English Book. I wrote one sentence every day, simple ones, like today is sunny or I went to the store, but I wrote them in English. I read them out loud. I shadowed myself. Day by day, my English grew. My voice changed. My fear got smaller. I even started thinking in English. That was a big moment. I was not just learning English, I was living it. Every evening, I went to the small library near my flat. It was quiet. I liked the smell of old books. There was a table in the corner. I sat there with my notebook and phone. I played English audio stories with slow speech. I listened with my earphones. Then I paused the story and spoke the words. I whispered at first. Then I spoke louder. I copied the voice. I copied the rhythm. I copied the emotion. This was my new habit. I did it every day. Sometimes people walked by and looked at me. I smiled and kept going. I didn't care if they thought I was strange. I had a goal. I wanted to speak English like water, not slow, not broken, just flowing. One day, I met a woman at the library. Her name was Mia. She was learning English, too. She said, I see you shadowing every night. I laughed and said, yes, I love this method. She asked, can we practice together? I said, of course. So now we met twice a week. We chose a story. We listened. We repeated. We laughed. Sometimes we got tired, but we never gave up. One evening, we tried a story about a lost dog. It was funny. Mia said the lines with a happy voice. I copied her. She copied me. It felt like music, like a game. We both felt more free. Our mouths moved better. Our voices grew louder. I started feeling brave. I joined a speaking club near my school. It was small, just 10 people in a circle. Everyone came to speak English. No pressure, no grades, just talking. The leader said, tell us a short story from your life. My hands were shaking. My heart beat fast. But I stood up. I said, my name is Ariel. I want to tell you about my English journey. I told them how I was afraid before, how I started shadowing, how I met Mia, how I started speaking more. People listened. One woman smiled the whole time. When I finished, everyone clapped. I sat down. I was shaking again. But this time, I was smiling. A man said, Thank you. Your story helped me. I said, thank you too. That night I wrote in my notebook, I spoke in front of people today. I didn't run. I didn't hide. I spoke, and they listened. That was a big step for me. After that, I joined every meeting. I talked more. I listened more. I asked questions. I made friends. We shared snacks. We shared mistakes. We shared laughter. English became part of my life, not just in school, not just in books, but in my heart. I changed my phone to English. I changed my laptop to English. I even changed my diary to English. I started writing my thoughts in English. Simple ones, like I feel tired, or I miss home, or today was a good day. I wrote without fear. Even if it was not perfect, it was real. I even started dreaming in English. One night, I dreamed I was at the airport. I spoke to the officer. He asked questions. I answered with no fear. I woke up smiling. My English was now inside me. One day, our teacher gave us a challenge. She said, make a video, speak in English, talk about anything you love. I was scared. A video? Me? But I wanted to try. I made a short video. I talked about shadowing. I said, this method helped me speak. It helped me feel strong. I showed my notebook. I showed my voice. I showed my heart. I posted it in our class group. People liked it. Some said, thank you, this helps me too. The teacher said, good job, Ariel. Keep going. I felt proud. I never thought I would speak in a video, but I did, because I didn't give up. That week, Mia and I had a new idea. We said, let's make shadowing stories for other students. We wrote short stories in English, simple ones, easy ones. We recorded them. We read slowly. We paused. Then we read again. Like a shadowing guide. We shared the stories with our classmates. They loved them. One student said, I listen to you every night. You help me sleep and learn. That made us smile. English was not just a subject. It was now a gift we could share. Mia and I made 5 stories. We called them shadow stories. Our teacher played them in class. She said, this is learning by helping others. I agreed. When I helped others, I learned more myself. One of the best moments was when I helped a new girl. Her name was Aisha. She was shy like I was before. She sat in the back. She didn't speak much. One day, I sat next to her. I said, do you want to try shadowing with me? She said, maybe. We started slowly. I read one line. She copied. I smiled. She smiled too. Bit by bit, her voice grew. Her eyes looked brighter. She said, thank you. I feel less scared now. I said, you are doing great. I saw myself in her, and I knew this journey is not just for me. It's for everyone who wants to grow. English is not about being perfect. It is about trying again. It is about not giving up. It is about using your voice, even if it shakes. That is what I learned. And I was still learning more each day. Every Friday, our English class had group practice. We sat in small circles. We picked topics from a box. Each group talked for 10 minutes. Then we changed groups. I liked these practice days. I got to speak with different classmates. We laughed a lot. Sometimes we didn't know the words, so we used hands or drew pictures. It was fun. One time the topic was your favorite food. I said, I like rice with chicken. A boy from Turkey said, I like pizza with too much cheese. A girl from Korea said, I love spicy noodles. We all laughed. We asked each other, do you cook? Can you share the recipe? It felt nice. We were learning English and learning about life. After class, some of us stayed to talk more. We made a small speaking group. We met every Sunday in the park. We brought snacks. We brought drinks. But we only spoke in English. That was the rule. Even if we didn't know how, we tried. It was hard at first. My friend Leo said, I always say the same words. I said, me too. So we made a game. We wrote new words on small cards. Each person picked one word and had to use it in a sentence. One card said library. Leo said, I go to the library to read English books. We clapped. One card said tired. I said, sometimes I feel tired, but I don't stop learning. They clapped for me too. It was simple, but it worked. We all got better, little by little. One Sunday we talked about our dreams. I said, I want to be a teacher. A girl named Nora said, I want to be a nurse. A boy named Amir said, I want to be a pilot. Then we practiced asking and answering. Why do you want to be a teacher? Because I like helping people. Why a nurse? Because I want to take care of others. These small talks helped us grow. Our words got stronger. Our minds opened more. We listened. We spoke. We laughed. We made mistakes, and we learned. Sometimes we made role-play games. I was a customer. Leo was a shopkeeper. I said, excuse me, how much is this bag? He said, it is 10 pounds. We smiled. Then we changed. I was the shopkeeper. He was the customer. Do you have blue shoes? He asked. Yes, size 10, I answered. It was like a real shop. We felt like we were living in English. One day we practiced phone calls. That was hard. No faces, only voices. But it helped us listen more carefully. I called Mia and said, Hi, is this Mia? She said, Yes, who is this? I said, It's Ariel. Do you want to meet for tea? She said, Yes, what time? I said, 4 o'clock. We laughed after the call. It was short but real. It felt like real life. And that was our goal. Not just grammar, not just rules. We wanted to speak with people. We wanted to live with English. Some nights, we had movie nights. We watched short movies with English subtitles. After the movie, we talked about it. I said, the man in the film was brave. Mia said, I liked the music. Leo said, I didn't understand the last part. We helped each other. We explained words. We checked new phrases. We repeated lines from the movie. It felt like shadowing, but with fun. One of my favorite memories was a word chain game. We had to say a word, then the next person said another word that started with the last letter. I said, apple. Mia said, elephant. Leo said, tiger. We played until someone stopped. We had fun and learned new words. We made learning a joy. Another day we brought photos. Each person talked about one picture. I showed a photo of my little brother. I said, "This is my brother. He is 5 years old. He loves cars." They asked, "What's his name?" I said, "Omar." Mia showed her dog. Leo showed a mountain. It was beautiful. We spoke with love. We listened with care. These talks were not just about English. They were about life. And through life, we learned English. One week, we tried something new. We gave each other challenges. Mia said, "Ariel, your challenge is to ask 5 strangers for the time, in English." I was scared, but I did it. I said, "Excuse me, what time is it?" People answered kindly. Some smiled. Some were busy, but all spoke back. I told the group, "I did it." They clapped. I felt strong. I gave Leo a challenge, too. Ask a shop worker about a product. He asked about a jacket. "Do you have this in blue?" he said. He was proud, too. These little moments gave us power. One of my biggest moments came from our speaking circle. We had a small event at school. We could tell a story in English. I told the story of how I started shadowing. I told them about my first video, about speaking in the mirror, about asking strangers the time. My voice was shaking at first, but then it got stronger. People listened. They smiled. One teacher said, "You spoke with heart." I said, "Thank you, that means a lot." After the event, Mia hugged me. "You did it," she said. "You inspired me." I said, "We inspired each other." That was true. Without my friends, I would not grow this much. Without talking with them, I would still be shy. But now, I love to speak. Not just speak, but connect. That's what English gave me. A way to connect. A way to understand others. A way to share my voice. Some days, we went to a small cafe near our school. It was quiet and cozy. The staff spoke English with soft voices. We ordered in English. We practiced real-life speaking. "Can I have tea with milk, please?" I said. "Would you like sugar?" the lady asked. "Yes, 1 spoon," I replied. Little moments like this made me feel brave. I was no longer scared to speak. I didn't wait for perfect grammar. I just tried. One time, the waiter forgot my order. I said, "Excuse me, I think my tea is missing." He said, "Oh, I'm sorry. I'll bring it now." I smiled. That day, I wrote in my notebook, "Today I solved a problem in English." Every little step felt big to me. One afternoon, I sat with Mia, Leo, and Nora at the cafe. We talked about our first days in London. Mia said, "I cried on the train. I couldn't ask for help." Leo said, "I got lost for 1 hour. I didn't know the word for street." Nora said, "I stayed in my room for 2 days. I was afraid to speak." I listened and said, "Me too." I was so scared. I thought I could never speak English well. But now we were speaking for hours. We laughed. We listened. We helped each other. That's when I understood. Fear is normal, but fear can change. 1 step at a time. 1 voice at a time. 1 small hello can grow into a long talk. After that day, we made a new plan. Every week, one of us had to lead a small group talk. We could choose any topic. Mia chose music. She said, "What's your favorite song in English?" Leo said, "I like Perfect by Ed Sheeran." Nora said, "I like Imagine by John Lennon." I said, "I like Count on Me by Bruno Mars." We listened to the songs and wrote down lines. Then we read them out loud. We tried to sing. We copied the rhythm. We felt happy. We felt free. I said, "Music helps me feel the words, not just say them." Nora agreed. "It's like English with emotion," she said. The next week, Leo chose sports. We played a guessing game. "I run fast. I use my feet. What am I?" he asked. "Football," we shouted. "I use a racket. I hit a small ball. What am I?" "Tennis," we said. It was fun. We didn't feel like students. We felt like friends learning together. My turn came next. I chose a topic close to my heart: books. I said, "Let's talk about our favorite stories." I brought a small book called The Little Prince. It had simple English. I read a part out loud. "What is essential is invisible to the eye," I said. We talked about what that meant. We shared what we felt. Mia brought a book about animals. Leo brought a book with funny poems. Nora said, "I want to write my own story one day." I said, "You can. Start small. 1 page." We made a promise that day. We said, "Let's write short stories in English. 1 story each month." We gave each other ideas. We read them out loud. We clapped. We helped with new words. We fixed small mistakes. But we didn't judge. We cheered because we knew it's hard to speak. It's harder to write. But when you try, you grow. One of the best days came when our teacher said, "We will have a class presentation." We had to talk for 5 minutes in English. No paper, just voice. I felt nervous again, but I remembered my story. I remembered my friends. I wrote small points on a card. Then I practiced with Mia. I stood in front of her. I said, "Today I want to tell you about the power of practice." I talked about shadowing. I talked about speaking in the cafe. I talked about how small steps made me brave. Mia clapped. "You are ready," she said. On the day of the presentation, I felt calm. I stood in front of my class. I looked at their faces. Some smiled, some waited. I spoke slowly. I used easy words. I told my story from the heart. When I finished, the class clapped. The teacher said, "That was beautiful. Thank you for sharing." I sat down with tears in my eyes. Not sad tears, happy ones. I had done it. I had spoken in English, with no fear and with real feeling. That night, our group met at the park. We brought juice and snacks. We sat on the grass and looked at the stars. Mia said, "We are not just English learners. We are a family now." Leo said, "We came from different places, but we walk the same road." Nora said, "This group changed my life." I said, "We helped each other speak, and we helped each other grow." We held hands for a second. We didn't say much. We just looked at the sky. It was quiet, but our hearts were loud. Loud with pride, loud with friendship, loud with English. In the second month, I applied for a part-time job. It was at a small bookstore. I didn't know if they would accept me, but I wanted to try. I walked in and said, "I want to ask about the job." The woman at the desk said, "Do you speak English?" I said, "I am learning. I practice every day." She smiled and said, "Let's talk for a few minutes." We sat down. She asked simple questions. "Where are you from? Why do you want this job? Can you work on weekends?" I answered slowly. I used small words. I looked into her eyes. She nodded. She said, "You are brave. Many people never try. You tried. That's a good sign." I got the job, my first English job. I was nervous but happy. I told Mia and Leo. They clapped. They said, "You're doing it. You're living in English now." On my first day, I helped customers find books. I said things like, "This book is on the second shelf," or "Do you need a bag?" Some customers spoke fast. I said, "Can you please say that again, slowly?" Most people were kind. They waited. They smiled. One man said, "Your English is good. Keep going." That made my heart warm. Every day at work was practice. Real practice. Not in a book, not in a classroom. Real voices, real questions, real answers. One day, a little boy came in. He said, "Do you have a book about dinosaurs?" I smiled. I said, "Yes. Let's go find it together." We walked to the kids section. I found a book with pictures. He smiled big. "Thank you," he said. I said, "You're welcome." He left with his mom. I stood there for a second. I thought, I just helped a child in English. That felt big to me, but not every moment was easy. One day I made a mistake. A customer asked for a book by a famous writer. I didn't hear the name right. I brought the wrong book. He looked upset. He said, "That's not the one." I felt bad. I said, "I'm sorry. I didn't understand." He said, "It's okay." I went back and found the right book. He smiled a little. "You're learning," he said. I nodded. "Yes, thank you for being kind." That night, I wrote in my notebook, "I made a mistake, but I stayed calm. I fixed it. That's also learning." Mia told me, "Don't worry about mistakes. Mistakes are teachers in secret clothes." I like that. I thought about it for a long time. One Friday, something new happened. My manager asked, "Can you help at story time tomorrow?" I said, "What is story time?" She said, "We read books to kids every Saturday." "We need someone to read." My hands got cold. I said, "You want me to read?" She said, "Yes. You have a kind voice." I didn't say yes right away. I went home and thought about it. I looked in the mirror. I said, "Once upon a time." I tried to read a short story. I smiled at myself. Then I said, "Okay, I can do it." The next day, I stood in front of 5 children. Their parents sat behind them. I held a book with big pictures. My voice was shaking, but I began. I read slowly. I pointed to the pictures. I made my voice go high and low. The kids laughed. One clapped. One asked a question. I answered. I felt alive. I felt brave. I felt like a real English speaker. After the story, one parent came to me. She said, "You read very well. My daughter loved it." I said, "Thank you. It means a lot." My manager said, "Great job, Ariel. You can do this every week now if you like." I said, "Yes, I'd love to." That night, I told my friends. They were so happy. Mia said, "You speak from the heart. That's the best English." Leo said, "Soon you will be a teacher, I know it." Nora said, "You inspire me every week." I felt proud. I was not perfect, but I was real. I was growing. I was trying. I started to record myself reading stories. I listened to my voice. I checked how I said the words. I sent one of my recordings to my teacher. She said, "Ariel, your voice is strong and clear. You have improved so much." I smiled. I knew it was true. I had come far from that first day when I could only say, "How are you?" Now I could read, help customers, and even lead story time, all in English. One evening, I got a message from the school. It said, "We are looking for student speakers for a big event. Would you like to speak?" I held the phone and stared at the screen. My hands shook, but I typed back, "Yes, I want to try." Then I looked at the clock. 1 hour passed, then 2. The school replied, "Thank you. We would love to have you." I sat in silence. I closed my eyes. I thought about my journey, the fear, the first try, the friends, the games, the cafe talks, the mistakes, the small wins, the big changes. I thought about the voice inside me that always said, "Keep going," and I whispered back, "I will."